Hi there. Welcome to today's edition of Empowerment Hour. How are you all today? Hopefully everyone's feeling good. I hear that the summer holidays are starting, which I find quite incomprehensible in many ways, because you've all had your kids off for so long anyway. So do enjoy your summer holidays, whatever they look like for you, wherever you end up being, whether that's here or abroad. I did hear a young chap who had his baby daughter with him talking to someone he'd not seen for a while in the supermarket, talking about how several generations of his family were all flying out to Tenerife at slightly different times from different parts of the country, to all get together somewhere in Tenerife on a beach. So it sounds wonderful, doesn't it? And at the same time, I know there's an awful lot of you who have a bit of anxiety, possibly a fear, phobias of what to do with this lockdown now it's over. And I've got just the person to talk to us about that today. So I'm Denise Oliver, I'm your host, and today my guest is Calon Hemmings of The Healing Mind. So good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Denise. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? Thanks for being a guest today. I really appreciate this. Just like you to know that. Tell us just briefly where you're from, where you do what you do, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So, initially from the Wirral, ancestors from, again, the Wirral and from Wales. And I live now in Tarvin, which is just outside Chester. I think Tarvin actually means the border of Chester in old ancient words. So just really, really close by. And I have a business called The Healing Mind. And what I do is I support people to make change through hypnotherapy, through neuro-linguistic programming, sometimes known as NLP, and through emotional freedom technique. And again, that is also known as EFT. Some people know that as tapping. And the other thing that I do is Reiki healing and well-being sessions. So people come to me sometimes just on a weekly basis, if you like, just to get that boost, that energy flow through the body.
Sounds amazing. So it's a nice collection of therapies to have to offer people, because not everyone responds to one therapy, do they?
No, not at all. And what I do is I tend to blend the therapies to support the people who come to me in the best possible way. So quite often people will initially come to me for hypnotherapy, because I cover such a wide range of things through hypnotherapy. But then, for instance, if people would like to get rid of pain, I can support that through emotional freedom technique, through tapping as well, and that helps bring the pain down. Or we actually have a special technique within emotional freedom technique called chase the pain. So we can actually move that around the body, and people are really amazed how you can do that just by using your mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, we are amazingly complex at the same time, incredibly simple as well. There's so many very simple things that can be accessed that really help us and boost our bodies so that we can live our best lives, is what I've found.
Yeah, it is, and there's more and more scientific evidence that talks about the mind and body connection being as one. Lots of neuroscience, scientific evidence now, and that's what I like to work with. That's what I'm passionate about, and that's what I, continuously study.
That's really great. Thanks for introducing yourself and everything you do. And I know that one of the things that is happening out in society is this concern over coronavirus and COVID, and there is a certain amount of anxiety that people have. So when we've listened to this first song choice of yours, we'll come back, and if you're okay with that, we can have a little look at what that anxiety might be about and what you could offer people to assist them to go beyond it. Hi there, welcome back. This is Empowerment Hour. I am Denise Oliver, your host, and my guest today is Calon Hemmings of The Healing Mind. And before we go any further, just to remind you all that this is recorded. We are not live in the studio yet. I think there are some people who are venturing back, but the majority of us are still recording these from our homes. So if there's any slight glitches or any weirdness that goes on as I'm recording, please bear with us and we will do our best. I also like to thank Amy, our station manager, who without Amy, the show wouldn't still be on the road. So Amy, yay, we adore you. And thank you so very much. So before we heard your first song choice, Calon, I mentioned about anxiety and this COVID anxiety that appears to be on the increase now. First of all, what is anxiety? Let's start there.
Okay, so anxiety is really brought about by worrying about things that um, might or might not happen. And it can be brought about by worry, but it can also be brought about by medical conditions. So anybody, for me, anybody that I speak with, I just do double check before I support them and everything that they haven't got, or they'd like to see, if they'd like to see their GP, because it's really important, because many medical conditions can bring on anxiety. But in addition to that, things like hormone imbalance, the menopause, people can start to have anxiety where they mightn't have had it before. And sometimes people get that flush of adrenaline and cortisol that makes them almost take a breath, that fluttering in their chest and their stomach. And that can be due to the raising cortisol in the body. And cortisol, not a lot of people know that cortisol is in its highest as soon as you wake up in the morning. So sometimes people will come to me and they'll say, oh, it's literally, I know it's going to be a bad day because as soon as I wake up, I get this. and that kind of feeling is often caused by just the raise in the cortisol. And that's there to help us get up and get on in life. But with hormonal changes, sometimes that can be increased, or because you're worrying about things, sometimes that can be increased. So the other thing would be is worrying. It's a scientific fact. There's been experiments and research done to show that about 79-80% of the things that we worry about don't actually happen. And out of those things that happen, only about 3% of the things that happen are things that maybe we can't manage easily. We might have to put a bit of effort into it. So knowing those kinds of things, I think, really helps people and helps them understand anxiety a bit more. So that's sort of like an outline of the kinds of things that maybe people will come to me with, those kinds of feelings, and they can be brought on also by phobias and fears. And with relation to COVID, for instance, there's obviously a real fear about what can happen to people with COVID. And of course, if they're watching it all of the time, quite often people who do worry will continue to look at things that might worry them even more. And it's really important to maybe switch off from some of those things. That's just a first little tip, really, is don't constantly look at the news 24 hours a day, because that will increase your adrenaline and increase your worry. So when people come to me for anxiety for after the lockdown period, because I've reopened again, thankfully, but have been working on Zoom, the first thing that I'll look at is where that anxiety and where that stress has been caused from. And what's an easy little tip, for instance, to empower your listeners, is to understand that stress, reducing stress, will improve your immunity. So the first thing that is important to do is to breathe, obviously. And I'm sure you've had a lot of people who've been on your show before, Denise, that have
Yeah,
spoken about the importance of breathing. And maybe they also know that when you breathe in, it increases your heart rate, and when you breathe out, it reduces your heart rate. So to to breathe out will bring that panic down. If you breathe out for 11 seconds and breathe in for 7, it'll bring that heart rate down. So we can talk a little bit more about that in a moment, if you like.
that would be great. One of the things that's going through my mind as you're saying everything you're saying is, I love the quote that's Deepak Chopra. We were born human beings, but we become human doings and human stressings.
You're so right.
So true. Anyway, we're going to take a break now. Karen, that's great. And we'll be back and you can talk a bit more about the breathing, which I think is so important and fascinating. And I'll tell you a little bit about something I discovered about me with breathing that really changed me as well. Hi there, welcome back. This is Empowerment Hour. I'm Denise Oliver, your host, and my guest is Karen Hemmings of The Healing Mind. So Karen, you're talking about anxiety and little tips that you're going to be giving throughout the show. And your first one is about breathing. And just give us a breathing routine that we can do. And then I'll share something about my breathing that I discovered a while ago.
Okay, so for me, breathing is the first thing, obviously, that you want to focus on. And obviously, with hypnosis and meditation, it's also good to really visualize something and get into a real nice state. But we can move on to that in a moment. So the first thing that I would do is to ask people to breathe in for a shorter amount of period than what they breathe out. Now, some people do it for breathe in for 7 and hold and breathe out for 11. And other people might do a shorter pattern because it works well for them. The important thing is it's comfortable for you. Don't try and do something that somebody else says you should do if it doesn't feel right. But breathing in for 7, so breathe in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and hold just for a moment, and then out for 11. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and out.
And I don't know about anybody else, but breathing out for 11, I feel really empty.
Yeah. But that will really bring your heart rate down. So you could do it 4 and 7, whatever sort of like works for you. And then one of the things that I like to talk to people about, because people obviously quite often talk about being in what's known as the flow state. So the flow state would be maybe somebody who practices Tai Chi or something like that, and it might be a little bit too hard for anybody else to do, you know, to get into this meditative state that it is something that will really bring your stress down. And flow state is really about being immersed in something that you enjoy. So it's something that's maybe not too easy, but also not too hard, not too challenging. But it could be writing a poem, it could be authoring a book, doing a journal or a jigsaw, it could be playing a guitar, but also it can be doing something like polishing a car. You know, it's something that really helps you immerse. So almost your body and your mind are all in one. So try and think about things that you can immerse yourself in, and visualize doing that to the best of your ability. And just by doing that, you can bring your own flow state into practice, and just look for things. And one of the really interesting things about our minds and how our minds work is, if we're looking for something, we have something in our mind called the reticular activating system, or RAS. And RAS will mean that if you're looking for something in a positive way, those kind of things will appear to you in life. And the same, it conversely, is if you're looking for something in a negative way. So you'll know that if you're looking for a TV or something, all of a sudden there'll be TVs popping out all over the show on adverts. If you've just bought a white car, everybody in the world seems to have a white car. And that's our reticular activating system working well for us. So if we're looking for things that are positive in our lives, and if we believe things are positive in our lives, then that positivity will show itself to us. If we think that everybody's going to die from COVID, yeah, then we will see and we will hear constantly the negative side of things, and we might discount seeing the things on the television about people coming out of hospital having survived COVID, which, by the way, my 90-year-old mother has. So I speak from experience, knowing that people really can make it through.
Well, congratulations to your mum. That is amazing. And yeah, there are a lot more people who have had this and have survived it and are going on to thrive as well. Yes, initially it was that massive number that so many people appeared to have it, and we got those huge spikes in numbers. The government was very happy to show us all the time. And as an ex-nurse, I was very interested in what was going on the news, because I'm always interested in what bodies do and how bodies do recover and how they do get over things. And part of that is the mind. You have to know in your own mind that actually you're going to recover from this as well as anything else. Very briefly, just to go back to the breathing, I discovered that I was a reverse breather. And so when I breathed in, my diaphragm actually went up, so I had no lung capacity. And when I breathed out, my diaphragm went down. And so I had a massive capacity, but there was nothing going in. So I had to actually train myself to breathe correctly. And it's life-changing. So just check whether when you're breathing, just how, when you breathe in, what happens to your chest, what happens to your rib cage, what happens to your diaphragm, and go from there. And you might need to see someone like Karen who can help you with this, or yoga. That was where I discovered what I did, was when I was doing yoga, and I was dizzy all the time. I just couldn't get through, like you were talking about, the flow state. So when there was a sequence, I couldn't do it because I had to keep sitting down because I had no oxygen in my body. It was like, how have I survived? But anyway, we're going to take another break. And Karen, I'd like to hear from you actually a little bit about what got you interested in what you do. Do you have a story to tell about change that's happened for you, or was it something else? So we'll take a break now. Hi there. I'll take a deep breath in. Welcome back. You're listening to Empowerment Hour today with myself, Denise Oliver, and Karen Hemmings of The Healing Mind. And before we went to that break, I asked Karen how she got into what she's doing. So just to remind everyone, Karen offers Reiki healing, neuro-linguistic programming, often referred to as NLP, emotional freedom technique, EFT, which I've also done, and advanced clinical hypnotherapy. So yeah, go.
Okay. Thank you. So where did I start? So I think very much all of my life I've been quite of a spiritual person, but I also am quite, well, not quite, I'm really interested in the scientific ways that the mind work, and most of all I'm interested in people. So I started my life actually training in hotel and catering, went on to run hotels for a number of years. And it was during that period of time in hotels, you used to never get a break. So the only way to get a break is if you were a smoker. So I smoked a lot to make sure I got some breaks. And it got to a point where actually when I was taking somebody around a hotel and I was showing them a conference room which was upstairs, I couldn't walk and talk at the same time because my breathing was so bad, and I thought, really, I need to do something about this. So I tried all sorts of things, everything that was on the market at the time, to try and stop smoking, and I wasn't able to do it. So I went to a hypnotherapist, and bingo, I stopped smoking. So that was, many years ago now, 23 years ago. So from that moment on, I was really interested in the hypnotherapy side of things, and read and watched different things. And then fast forward, I suppose, to number of years later, back in 2002, I had been living down south, and I returned back to live on the Wirral. And I started a new job supporting people who had been long-term unemployed in motivation programs, training programs, to basically to support them into work. And the more we saw the people that would come to us, the more I'm trying to say, the less inspiration they had. They didn't have any career goals, and it used to really upset me when people would come to us and say, "Oh, I'll do anything. I've never done anything. I've got no qualifications. I'll just be anything." And so what we wanted to do then is say, "No, actually, you can be anything you want." So that really inspired me to start helping people even more. And because of that spirituality that I've always had, I then undertook my Reiki training in 2002 as well. So I've been doing that for, I say, 18 years now. Then later on, I worked and started doing hypnotherapy, and I did my NLP training, my first practitioner training. And that again really just helps from anything from I used to manage teams, so it had helped with that, but also in the motivational side for supporting people to make massive changes, and we really did support thousands of people to make change. And then going on from there, I then increased sort of like my hypnotherapy knowledge. I became a master NLP and hypnotherapist, and then latterly learned emotional freedom technique, which seems to tie everything together, and I can tag on to anything that I do. On a personal level, I suffered with fibromyalgia back in 2006, and found that whilst the support groups were supportive, a lot of them made me feel like I would never get out of this, and I knew that I could get out of it. And so I started doing a lot of work on myself, and here I am today. I very rarely have a fibromyalgia episode, and I'm helping lots of other people to overcome pain. So
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that everything that you're talking about, I've actually sought help with as well. And it's that you just know when something's right for you. And I loved my EFT, and I still know all my points, and I can tap away. And it wasn't for me personally until Access came into my world, Access Consciousness, that something mega shifted. And that's, I think, what a lot of people are looking for, is that thing that works for them. So with you, the hypnotherapy, and you stopped smoking, you were like, whoa, and something really switched on for you. And I love that when you have that experience of what that's like, and you really can talk from that authentic voice. And the other thing I love when you're talking is that mix of you're curious scientifically and you're curious spiritually as well. And I think there's got to be, this is just my point of view, much more of a blending of the science and the spiritual for us to really go forward in this world, and to create massive change. But then maybe governments don't want us to change too much. Who knows? Right, I'll stop. Hi there, welcome back. This is Empowerment Hour here at Calon FM. I'm Denise Oliver, and my guest is Karen Hemmings of The Healing Mind. Change is what you're about, Karen. How easy or difficult is that for people, would you say?
it can be quite easy. People quite often think it's hard, and that's not to discount anything that people feel or think or have experienced. But once you've got techniques and once you have understanding and you know how to change, it can become quite easy. So, for instance, I could see somebody and within 3 sessions within hypnotherapy and NLP blended, I can maybe give them a massive change and massive support for the rest of their life. What is really interesting with again, when you look at sort of like the neuroscience of things, our brain has something which is called neuroplasticity, and what that is it creates shortcuts for us in our mind to simplify things. So if we do things time and again, then our brain, because it takes in about 60,000 pieces of information every day, it needs to generalize, it needs to distort, and it needs to delete things. So if you think about the room around you now, Denise, if you thought about well, for me, I'm sitting on my client's reclining chair at the moment. So, but if I was to think about that, and then the things that I've got around me, I can see a singing bowl behind me. I've got a microphone in front of me. If I thought about every single thing, then your mind would almost explode. We just couldn't do it. So it generalizes, deletes and distorts things so we can take in what's happening in the world. And that's through this thing called neuroplasticity. And to make change, we need to create those new shortcuts. So currently, for instance, if every time somebody goes into the kitchen, they think about a biscuit, and they want to lose weight, and their current thinking is every time I walk into the kitchen I think about a biscuit, we need to change that, and we can do that through hypnotherapy, and we can change the patterns. So that will bring about a new habit. And to understand, so if I supported somebody for a few sessions to help them lose weight, for instance, or stop smoking, or to reduce their anxiety, some people it might take 14 days for them to create a new habit. Some people it might take 90 days. And what I often say to people is find out how long it takes you to make a new habit in your mind, to create that new shortcut through neuroplasticity. Just move the kettle in your kitchen, and then every time you go to make a cup of tea, notice where you go to when you first walk into your kitchen. Do you go to its old place, or do you go to its new place? Because more often than not, people will go straight to the old place where the kettle was because they've made so many cups of tea in their life. So if you move it and then watch how long it takes you. Does it take you a few days to create a new habit, or does it take you, a few weeks to create that new habit? And then think about that's how long it might take you. So what I would do with hypnotherapy is I support people with hypnotherapy. I always give them an MP3 recording of everything that we do together if they want. And then they listen to that recording, and by listening to that recording, it will embed the new practices into their mind. I'm not sure whether I've gone off on a...
No, it's great. No, I was actually going to ask you what do clients get as a result of that? Because I know for me, it's interesting you talk about the kettle. We had a new TV right before lockdown, and it just is slightly different, and the on and off switch of the TV is in a different place. Mm-hmm. And I went to the top of the TV because that's where the old one had it so many times. Like, when will you get that it's underneath now? Because it's a different make. So I totally get that. And then that sort of reinforcing of what the change is going to be. But you've already said you offer MP3s so that people can listen. How often will they have to listen? Is that again like how long does it take you to get used to where your new position for your kettle is? Is that what that comes in with?
It does. It does differ for different people. But one of the things that really helps, again, through hypnotherapy, we do what we call is future pacing. So in hypnotherapy, we can do regression to when people are younger, and we do that in a safe way. It's because people are in hypnotherapy and we're accessing their subconscious mind, not their conscious critical mind. We can help people regress through to childhood, or to a different part in their life when something's happened. But in addition to that, we can help them move forward so they can travel forward in the timeline. And the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's reality and what's imagined. So what we can do is we can pace forward on the timeline, help people visualize something so it might be you're going to you look slim, you've lost the 2 stone you wanted or whatever it is, and you look slim, and then we talk about feeling how good it is. I can talk to you more about that visualization in a moment if you want.
We're actually coming towards the end of the show. We've only got a very short space of time left, so we will take a break now and we'll be back shortly. Hi there, welcome back. This is the final section of the show. Karen, there is still so much more to say, isn't there? But before we talk about anything else, could you give everyone your contact details, please, whichever details you'd like to give out?
Yes, certainly. So my website is thehealingmind.co.uk. I'm also on Facebook, and the Facebook is also thehealingmind.co.uk. My email address is karen@thehealingmind.co.uk, and you can reach me on the telephone, and my telephone number is 07939 865 111.
One of the things I just want to make a comment about is how calming your voice is.
Oh.
There's a lovely pace to it. It's like you're never hurried. There's such an ease. And I can imagine as a client, do you call them clients? Do you have clients or patients?
Clients or customers.
Yeah. Coming to you and just feeling so much at ease so quickly, because you've just got that lovely way about you. Very calming.
Oh, that's really nice to say. And I think the other thing is, it's just about really enjoying what you do, isn't it? So you're able to be calm and just kind and want the best for everybody that you're working with, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think kindness goes a long way to assisting people with all sorts of things, really. And that's not getting them stuck in their story. Kindness isn't that just allowing someone to carry on as they've always carried on. No, it's that actually, I'm here for you. What do you want to change? And I can assist you with that. And that's how I see it anyway. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. So there isn't much time to talk about anything else at all. Is there one last thing you'd like to say before we go? Is there anything in particular? Is there anything in particular that you, above anything else that comes through your clinic, that you love to assist people with?
I think my main message is change is possible, and whether that change is for fear, phobias, anxiety, pain management, whether you want to do a fantastic presentation, whether you want to have a great life, change is possible. There's millions of tools out there to support you, and I know quite a lot of them. The other thing is I offer a free 30-minute consultation. So if you've got a query, pick up the phone and ask, or mail me, and I'll get back to you.
That sounds great. Thank you, Karen. Really appreciate that. So anyone, because we do so much over Zoom platforms now, Karen does, a lot of your sessions are done this way, aren't they?
Yes.
Or they can be done in person now. One of the things I'd like to thank you for is the World Health Organization course that you did and then you told me about. So we now have our, I don't quite know what to call them, our infection control in operation with hand washing and anything else that's required as well. So thanks for that, and thanks for being here as my guest. So my guest was Karen Hemmings of The Healing Mind, and I'll be back next week. I was just trying to think what I was going to do next. Now, I'll be back next week, and please stay tuned to Calon FM. We've got loads more coming up for you, and enjoy the summer holidays as they're starting. Can't believe it. And yeah, I'll be back next week. Stay tuned. Bye for now. Thank you, Karen. Bye.